well, at the end of this life, if I, in my life, and I've still done a lot of things unconsciously, I will come back, and you can call it reincarnation, whatever it is. I'll come back in another form, and I'll be more informed than I was previously, more conscious.
And the last one was, don't settle for someone else's explanation of the reason you're here. Create your own. We didn't really talk about the reason we're here. Do we want to talk about that quickly? Because we're running a little long on time, but that's probably an important point to hit. Because I guess that, so I know you said you had been having a conversation with someone who's talking about past lives.
Yeah, this was a really interesting
I am interested in that, and maybe that would play into this a bit. Because assuming we do have past lives, I guess what's the point of keeping coming back?
Yeah, I thought about this yesterday.
Okay.
So I'm still getting my head around it. But the person I was speaking to about this was very, very confident that this is, because I this is the first time I'd met this person, and I asked the question straight away. Okay, so what's the meaning of life? And I thought,
that sounds about right. That's an Adam thing to do. Yeah.
I don't recommend you do that with everyone. Right. If you're on the first date, don't ask the person across the table what's the meaning of life. Anyways, I digress. So I asked that question. So if we come from energy, like I asked Gabby last week, if we come from energy, we then have X number of years on Earth in this form.
Yep.
And then we go back to energy. Why do we have this kind of moment of being here, physically manifested on this planet or wherever? Right. Because I'm still getting my head around that. And this person said to me, well, I like to think of it as contributing to your next life.
Okay.
And I thought, okay, I don't really get that. And so he talked about that we have past lives and we're past identities. And that past identity then feeds into your next identity.
Yep.
And each identity you have, or each time you're here, you obviously, you could have kids, you could have friends and family, and then they're doing the same. They're creating, they're basically feeding energy or information into the next kind of person, right? So, for example, he said to me, you obviously have a daughter. So not only in this life are you influencing you in the next life you have, but you're influencing Rose in the next life she has. And this idea of it just continues on like that. And I was thinking about this more yesterday in that I don't think really there would ever be an end to this. We like to think that one day the universe will end and da-da-da. It just
or you just keep getting more conscious, because that kind of piggybacks, sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay.
That kind of piggybacks on what Gabby was saying too, because she was talking about, I don't know if she used the term past lives, but that's what she was talking about. Is that every time you come back a little more conscious than the last time. And that, not to belittle, if that's the right word, but I can't think of the right word. But anyways, not to look down on other people who aren't as conscious as you, because they're on a different part of their journey than you are.
Yeah.
But and that's hard to do. But anyways, that's hard for me to do, I will admit. I can be a little pretentious that way. So
no. Anyways, that's just the construct of Amanda.
That's just the construct of Amanda. She's a little pretentious sometimes. But yeah, she was talking too about how your energy continues and you keep. So I wonder if the point is, so we're gonna get to the bottom of this at some point. What is the point of life? No, we're gonna ask enough people that we're gonna come to an answer. But I wonder if it's just to get to the point where you're so conscious that you're just pure energy.
Well, that's
I wonder if you get to a point where you're not even a person anymore.
Well, that's what I wonder, right? So to your point about don't judge other people who are really unconscious because they're in a different part of their journey. Yeah. Is the end state for everyone, is that every person, but I mean, people are being born every day, born out of the energy and, and then people are dying and then what are they reforming as other entities?
Yeah.
I just can't see an end to it, I guess, because I was thinking yesterday, does it end with every single person is conscious, fully conscious? Yeah. I'm well, no, I don't think there's ever going to be an end. I think it's
No,
just
I don't think there'll
continual.
be an end, but that might be the end for that person. Or
Yeah,
I don't know. Like, is
maybe.
that what it means to become like an angel? Because they always talked
Yeah.
about God and angels being light, like made of light, or and again, I haven't read the Bible in a very long time, but for some reason
Well,
that
isn't
rings true. Isn't that how they're kind of talked about as being light?
yeah?
And so
Well,
light
isn't
would
that a
be
cool
energy.
idea?
Hmm?
Like wherever you are right now, isn't it a cool idea to think rather than I'm going to die and I'm going to be judged based on the fact
Right.
that I did X, Y, and Z wrong in this lifetime,
Right.
and then I'm going to go to hell and I'm going to have however many years. And that's not to talk down the concepts out of Christianity, as I said before. If you feel that that gives you meaning and that drives your life and makes you happy, that's fine. But I think it's like more inclusive and nice to think of it as, well, you know, at the end of this life, if I, in my life, and I've still done a lot of things unconsciously, you know, I will come back, and you can call it reincarnation, whatever it is. I'll
Yeah.
come back in another form, and I'll be more informed than I was previously, more conscious, more likely to make the right decisions. And that when you eventually die, I suppose, or return to the energy that you came from,
Mm-hmm.
you will be a more conscious being. So
Right.
you won't go through that judgment and stuff because you've already made it to where you need to be. You've kind of gone through your whole life's journey, and it could have taken 100 lives. You know,
Right.
you've had to go through 100 things because maybe that's just your journey, whereas
Right.
maybe somebody else has gone through 2 or 3. You know,
Right.
like. But I think it's a nicer way of looking at it because then, you know, when you're in those final moments of your life, rather than thinking, oh my gosh, like where am I going to go now? I'm going to go into oblivion or I'm going to go to hell or wherever.
Yeah.
You think, well, I've concluded this part of the journey and I'm now on to the next step and we'll see how far I came in this lifetime, you know,
Right.
and where I'll go next. So
Well,
I don't know. We don't.
It was interesting because it just made me think of this. And honestly, I've never thought of it this way before. So for the audience, this is an authentic thought that I'm just thinking of now. But I wonder if that's what is meant by hell, is that you keep coming back. And maybe if you did something really bad, I don't even know how you define bad, but however you want to define bad. If you did something really bad, you come back with a pretty shitty life when you're, you know, your next life starts out pretty shitty. And then you have to try to get better from there. And maybe that's what hell is. Because if you think of it, this world is pretty hellish sometimes. And life is not that easy. So maybe that is your punishment, if that's how you want to look at it.
Yeah.
Using Christian terms, like that's your punishment or whatever, is you got to keep coming back until you get it right.
Yeah. I mean, it's such an interesting way of looking at it, I think.
I know.
So,
I think we're gonna get this figured out.
We will figure it out.
I mean,
and I think,
why not?
I think, you know, if you, me, and Gabby catch up in 6 or 12 months' time,
that'd be awesome.
And you know, and in that time, let's chat about what we've learned. You know, because I think we'll be in another part of the journey. But yeah, I think it makes things more. It just makes things easier to navigate.
Yes.
Like
exactly.
if you view them as, you know, you're basically on a journey to achieve consciousness, and what you're perceiving right now and getting annoyed about is the construct, you know, and that you can change that construct.
Right. Exactly. Because we live in a sea of potential. That's what Gabby said quite a few times last week, was we live in a sea of potential. So if you think of it that way, it's pretty empowering. Instead of living in fear, you can live in a state of feeling empowered.
Yes.
And feeling connected to other people. And that's really the choice that you get to make. So yeah. Awesome. So should we wrap things up?
I think we should. So I mean,
we've just solved the meaning of life right here. So
we have. So, you know, here it is, guys. We've solved it.
I don't know what else we could possibly talk about.
I know, honestly, we're done. But how good is that? By episode 10, I mean, what other podcast has solved the big question? You know,
exactly.
That's my ego coming out. I've got to go back a step.
Right.